There's something really interesting going on right now, which is that the OEMs, the manufacturers, those that are producing vehicles in automotive are struggling. I mean, there's no better way to put it. I've got some data. I didn't put this in the show notes, Pops, so don't give me too hard of a time here, but I'll share my screen here. There is a lot of friction happening right now in terms of producing cars. This came out just 4 hours ago from Bloomberg. I'll zoom in for you, Dad.
I can see it.
All right. Toyota's global output plunges in September on supply chain issues. The automaker produced 512,000 vehicles last month, down from 842,000 a year earlier. You then add in what we saw from GM yesterday or 2 days ago now. Their net income in the third quarter dropped by 40%. You got to love their CEO saying they're still on track to meet their annual profit goal. You guys can coach me up on how the hell that makes sense, but more power to them. Then you've got Ford, whose net income was down 24% in the third quarter, revenue falling as well. VW down 12% in terms of profit. This is juxtaposed by, and this is where I'm going to open it up to both of you, Sonic Automotive post record Q3 revenue despite low inventory. We have Penske Automotive. My dad, you used to work for Penske, post record net income in Q3. Right. We put some of this data back on the YAA website as well as, of course, today's stream. But it's crazy to me to see what's happening in terms of the OEMs, the manufacturers struggling, the dealerships thriving.
Well, and I think part of that, Zach, if I may, the low day supply of cars is creating an opportunity for dealers to do market adjustments, and we've seen some crazy ones. And there's enough people out there that are willing to pay that. And so dealership profits and large retail groups like Penske and Sonic and AutoNation, their per car average is way up. And then their F&I average, their back end average, is way up. So when you combine all those circumstances, it's easy to see how the dealerships can be making more money. I'm not quite so sure how the manufacturers who make money wholesaling vehicles, how they can reach their projections if they're, I don't know, producing 3 million less vehicles than they had intended.
Yeah, to that point, what I'm seeing is, so I have two perspectives on this, not necessarily from the quarterly earnings. I think a lot of this stuff, if we're going to talk about like stock prices, for example, a lot of this stuff could potentially be baked in because people, on the street already knew that these supply chain issues, especially with, whether it's semiconductors or chips or whatever the case may be from China or wherever these things are coming from, Wall Street probably already priced this into the stock price. The stock market is just basically a future discounting machine to come up with a net present value today.
Between you and me, Marko, we're going to convince my dad that that's the truth today on this show.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. But what I can say anecdotally is that I have a friend that owns a pretty big used car dealership. He only does used cars. Granted, he's in a niche market. He does mostly used trucks, which trucks are always, in demand, at least here in the Midwest. I'm in Cleveland. But I drive by the dealership that I used to work at literally every day. It's on the way next to a major highway exit that I use. And they have two sides to their lot. One side is used cars. The other side is new cars. The new car side is almost like a barren wasteland. I'm telling you, they only have cars parked right on front on the main street, and everything behind it is vacant land, which used to be, new inventory. But on the used car side, that seems to be at capacity. So I guess to your point, I didn't mean to derail the conversation from OEMs and dealerships, but I can kind of see both sides of the coin. So I think that what's happening right now, to your dad's point, is that there's so much money being flooded into the system right now that people are kind of just saying, hey, I don't mind paying this markup, or I don't mind buying a new car to get certain incentives such as financing and things like that. And I think it really just is a flood of money to where, it's almost like people paying a little bit more to go to McDonald's, for example. Yes, it's a 10, 15, 20% increase in price, but at the end of the day, people kind of want their Big Mac kind of a thing.
I wonder if the environment that we're in. So Marko, when I first started the business and I super small channel, but I have like a personal YouTube channel where I talk about starting the business, starting YAA, and I've written about it on my website and things like that. when we first started the business and I roped my dad out of retirement and got him to do it with me, it was predicated on this idea that, yes, of course, we're moving in a direction where the buying experience is going to be more Tesla-like, one price, the OEM is selling to the consumer, the dealership model goes away. I remember when we were going to raise venture capital for YAA, we raised millions of dollars for the business. And that was some of the pushback we got is, well, you're helping people buy cars, but in the future, everyone's just going to go to Tesla. They're just going to go to GM. They're just going to go to Nissan and just buy the car. And I had always, my rebuttal to that was super simple. It's like, yeah, well, every single state has like legislation that blocks that from happening. And there's hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars in infrastructure and valuations and everything tied up in this market working the way it currently does. This is a long-winded way I'm going to come around to. Are we seeing the first signs of that cracking in the sense that Tesla is a $1 trillion company, which is bonkers? They're a $1 trillion company. GM is a $78 billion company. That's their market cap right now, and they're losing money. GM's franchise dealer partners are going through the roof. They're excited and happy. Like, I actually think, and again, when we started the business, like, we knew this was coming, but we thought, okay, this is like 30, 40 years off. Now it feels like it might be 10 years off or 5 years off or even sooner. I'm curious, both of you guys, what your takes on that are.
Well, very quickly, my only thing is there's still a lot of lobbying dollars with the automotive industry. So, I mean, they have deep pockets. I don't want to say they're like big tobacco or anything like that. I just don't know the numbers off the top of my head. But, I think that in that how car dealerships will rip you off video, that's the video that kind of blew up my channel. A lot of these car guys were coming into the comment section, very angrily saying like, oh, you're clueless, this and that. And I was basically saying, dude, in 20 years, the dealership model may not even exist, So that's kind of like a broad, big picture kind of a thesis. But, look at how fast everything is changing in terms of whether it's, digital currency or central bank digital currencies or, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, all these things that are either like a meme or a joke or they have actual utility. I feel like with Moore's law, with technology doubling, every certain amount of years, who knows what the future is going to look like with this kind of business model. So part of me is like, I side with the younger generation of, hey, the Tesla model is like really, really easy. It's super simple, no haggle, that kind of a thing. And then part of me is like, hey, look at all the dollars in lobbying that are behind the automotive industry. So as always, it's kind of a non-answer, but I fall somewhere in the middle. But I still believe that things will change. I just don't know how fast.